I really have one message. You know, what happened to me has happened to a lot of people. A lot of people my age have sadly passed away. It wasn't what happened to me that's important, and this is the most significant thing, it's what the family go through. Like my wife had to authorise a tracheotomy, which thankfully they didn't do. One of the lovely stories I got as they watched me in ICU, they're taking all your vital signs or whatever they do, and one of the doctors said, "This guy's a fighter." And with that, they decided to operate on my stomach because the corona had attacked my bowel. So I have a stoma bag that hopefully will be reversed in the near future. But the good fortune of those wonderful, skillful people and the disregard that a lot of people have for the efforts to try and stem this. If they only knew the stress and tragedy that the families go through. And heaven forbid, there's been 30 or 40 medical personnel, doctors, and have died. These are people trained to help you. And these people that are flaunting the rules of distancing and gatherings, they have no idea of the eventual pain that's inflicted on these families. So I asked them to be a little bit more respectful of humanity and goodwill towards particularly those nurses and doctors. Wonderful people. I had a lovely time in hospital. 18 weeks, I made some lovely contacts. They were so good to me, you know, very gentle. You know, I could tell you a couple of stories, but we shouldn't. But, you know, my wonderful supporting family, I have 4 daughters and a lovely wife. And for 8 weeks there, I lay there like a vegetable. I didn't have no pain, just missing part of my life, you know. But the one real lesson in life, despite it all, you've got to learn to get up one more time than you've been knocked down. You know, we all have our ups and downs in life. Some of us severe downs I appreciate, but you've got to keep going, you know. So, you know, when I became conscious, I was designing a new piece of furniture I wanted to make. And I thought to myself, well, at least my brain's all right, my best friend. Yeah, your brain is your best friend, I don't care what you think. He's the only bloke you can't lie to and knows everything about you, you know? A bloody good mate to have, I tell you. So,
It was still working, your mate was still working then when you
I felt really good.
Yeah.
But I no pain,
Yeah.
no, not 1 ounce of pain. And these lovely people are doing everything to make me comfortable. And it was very fortunate that I had the stoma because I didn't soil the sheets or anything like that at all, you know, and that would have been traumatic for them, not me, for them. You know, people just don't realise the job that nursing staff do. You know, my wife made me a lovely hummingbird cake for my birthday, and I had a piece, and then I said to my lovely physiotherapist, I love Charlie. I said, look, take it and cut it into small pieces and share it with the nurses. And the next day my son-in-law, who's a major in the army, came up. He said, as I was coming down the hall, I heard one nurse say to another, have you had a piece of Graham's birthday cake yet? They loved it.
So you had your birthday in there?
Yeah, I was 77 on the 16th of June.
Oh,
yeah.
And what do you remember from that day?
Well, they brought me home here because we were having this floor redone. And it was a very tiresome day, and we had a lovely lunch out in the park at Anzac Square. It's a beautiful place here. And Yeah, they brought me over in a maxi cab and all that bloody drama.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was nice of them to my daughter. We have 4 daughters. 2 live here in Brisbane. And what happened to me was one of the nicest things to happen to our family. Sisters will be sisters, and they, you know, and, well, I've got 5. You know, they swap clothes and they argue about this. But what happened was they suffered more than anybody. It was their journey. They bonded together to support their father. Very, very... When you're a father of 4 daughters and you grow up, you become a bit of a bloody, you know, a bit hard to deal with. But it's been a wonderful experience for our family.
Who do you want to thank out of this?
Well, I think there's only gratitude and thankfulness to the doctors and nurses. The family always are very important, and that's what distresses me most. The flagrant disregard for attempts to limit this thing. They don't understand the pain that's inflicted on families, and the greatest indictment is the loss of life amongst the medical fraternity. Where would you be if they weren't there to help you? And some of these people, if it happened to them, what would they think? You know, I shouldn't say this, but, and I don't want to denigrate the greatest crime against humanity that we're all aware of. But to me, if you look at the parallels, you know, voluntary taking actions that harm other people. Think about it for a minute. Just think about it for a minute. You know, the lovely doctors over there, very skillful people, and they're exposed to it every bloody day, moment of the day.
What talk me through your holiday. So when did you go? Why did you want to go?
Well, it was our 50th wedding anniversary. And I'm always full of surprises, and I tell a lot of stories. So I shouted my wife to New York to go to I've been to opera houses all over the world. I love opera. I used to play it on my phone in the ward, and, you know, we have private health cover, but I've been in the public ward many times. Best care in the world. And I was with 4 blokes, a lot older than me. They loved it. Yeah, I played some lovely pieces. But so we went to the opera in America, and once you've been to the opera house in Italy, everything else is a bit also rad. I'd heard a lot about the Met, and I wanted to go there. It was on my bucket list. So it was a 50th wedding anniversary surprise for my wife. And they cancelled the program after 3 operas, and we had the opportunity to go home. But we were booked a week later to go to Peru, where we have a daughter and grandchildren I haven't seen in 8 years. And we decided to stay. And the day before we were to fly to Peru, they closed the Peruvian border. So I said to Glenda, we're going home. But I'd already caught I now understand there's been some discussion certain blood groups are more perceptive or more receptive to the virus. And my wife didn't get it.
Well,
you know,
does that amaze you?
Well, it must be, there's something, you know, like without a doubt there's some unfinished business in my life. I'm not a religious person. You know, the church has lost me a while ago. But there is definitely some unfinished business in my life. You know, and I've got to search that out, you know. We've been very fortunate in our lives. My father used to say, Cairns has been good to the Brashes. And it certainly has. You know, we've been very, very fortunate. And so New Walk was called short.
Is that where you think you picked it up from?
No doubt about that.
Yeah. And at the Met, do you think, or?
Oh, well, we had a
Somewhere
week
there.
and we went on the subway and
Yeah. Okay.
all that. Yeah, I wasn't all that keen to do that.
Yeah.
But I got, well, I'll tell you a funny story. We had to fly with American Airways from New York to San Francisco to get our Qantas plane, because I'm a great Qantas man.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says, they're the best airline in the world. And I sneezed. We're in business class on a 3:30, I think it was. Well, this very officious bloody flight attendant shifted everyone out of business up to first class and left us on our own. The plane landed, in come the police, the fire brigade and the doctors. They escorted us off the plane. There would have been 20 people in uniform. We're in the airport lounge. People walking past, and they had bloody things all over me. And this doctor, whom I enjoyed actually, he was real good. He said, "Do you want to go to hospital or what?" I said, "I want to go home to Australia, mate." "All right, sign here." So I signed, and we called for a wheelchair because I didn't know how to get to the Qantas bloody lounge. And I don't know if you've ever been to San Francisco, but it was bloody unbelievable. Under the tarmac and up. So we got to the Qantas lounge and they looked after us admirably. But I got home here and I had a little bit of diarrhoea that I'd never experienced before, and I said to Glenda, "I don't feel too well." So she rang the ambulance and the paramedics arrived, and the last I remember being pulled out of I saw the emergency sign and I pulled out of the ambulance, and that's the last I remember. 5 weeks in intensive care and 3 more weeks up in isolation.
And then you came to.
Well, I was conscious in isolation.
So for 5 weeks, you don't remember that period?
Not a thing. Not a thing. But I do remember, I thought I was in a beekeeper's. I was in an isolation ward with an airlock. You had to go through a door and then another door. And they'd come in, and I thought the way they were dressed, you know, I was still possibly, you know, active or whatever. And I thought, well, shit, I must be in a bloody a beehive. They're all in beehive units.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So the Royal Brisbane, she's a great place. Yeah, I certainly recommend the Royal Brisbane. The food's a bit bloody. Yeah, after 18 weeks, you know, I lost 15 kilos.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, we'll help you get that back." I said, "Hang on, mate, I don't want it back." No, I tend to be a little corpulent, you know.
Yeah.
I like my food very much.
Yeah. Did you get any, when you first felt sick back home, did you get any symptoms, like what symptoms, like you obviously had the diarrhea.
I just felt crook. No, I just felt crook.
And no like lung...
I knew I wasn't well.
Okay.
But see, it attacked every organ in my body. I was on dialysis for 3 weeks. My kidneys are a bit sick. My heart is still not good. And my bowel and my lungs was the biggest problem. They couldn't get enough oxygen into me. I had a tube down my throat for 5 weeks. And then they fed me by a tube for 8 weeks. You know, so I never tasted food. I started to dislike that actually. They'd come in and they'd feed you by a drip, you know, and you just lie there waiting for it to finish. And then they start they've got to then get your swallow back so that you can eat food. And the doctors, Glenda had to sign authority. The doctors produced an article to be published in their medical journal on me. And then the OT, the occupational therapist, they take a X-ray, like a like a movie of your swallow, and they ask for authority to use that for their training sessions. So I become a bit of a celebrity around the bloody hospital. They're calling me the miracle man and all this bullshit, and then and then a group turned up and they wanted my blood for research. So I had to sign that away, and after a few weeks I had to stop because they had taken too much blood out of me, because they blood test you every day, and I thought I was my own private bloody blood bank, Yeah, and there's another doctor, a little English girl over there, Sonia. She's been charged with producing an educational documentary on me through the hospital visit, and that's to be training of the whole of medical staff at the hospital, and I think it's programmed for the 17th of August. And she said to me the other day, well, she was one of the ones that asked me to go down to ICU to say hooray. But she said, the thing that comes through on your story is your indomitable spirit. And as I said, you've got to be able to get up one more time than they knock you down. So you've got to keep going, And I love telling stories. Some of them would get a bit blue, but they all loved, they all knew who Brashy was in the end. That's my nickname, Brashy.
Well, it's a bit of a story to tell then, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I never forget, I was a bit apprehensive about going down to ICU, but they took a picture of me standing beside my ICU bed, and having met all those wonderful people and seeing the joy in their faces and their admission that no one comes to see them after they go, they were very taken with the fact that I'd made the effort. But when I came away, I really felt good. I enjoyed that. I really, really did. It meant a lot to me to see all those happy people that put themselves in the front line,
What's your message to them?
Gratitude and thank you. Hopefully I won't ever see them again. But they were just so dedicated, without fear, they don't flinch, they're straight in. They protect themselves as best they can. But that's a damning statistic that we have exposed, I think the figure's up to 40, 30 to 40 of medical staff have been afflicted. That's terrible, terrible. Nothing to be proud of in Australia, nothing.
You see those numbers in Melbourne at the moment, 480 new cases.
Yeah, well, look, I don't want to talk in a political tone.
No.
But leadership is very important. I'm very proud of our Prime Minister. And I make no apology, I am a Conservative. But one distressing thing I heard the other day was some of the experts are suggesting that this Victorian outbreak can be traced right back to the botched hotel quarantine. Now, I'm not going to call for people to be accounted. All I'm saying, for Christ's sake, let's pull together. I always used to marvel. I was a cadet in the Air Force. And I always used to say, the coat of arms around the world, they got lions and eagles, and we've got a bloody kangaroo and an emu. But the thing about the kangaroo and the emu, they don't walk backwards, right? They can only walk forward. So that's what we should be. Aussies always move forward. A unique country, the Australians. The most democratic, the most generous, and always to the fore when there's a crisis. So why can't we be like that with COVID-19?